2 years ago, on Juneteenth 2021, KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun.
As we enter our third year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks.
Yo, Chris, what you doing out of school?
Yo, man, they just suspended me, McBoo.
Word, they suspended the teacher?
Yeah, man, I'm getting so sick of this, man. They teaching us about nothing, man. You know what the bottom line is for Black people out here? It's quite simple. You must learn.
Okay, we get in with the little KRS-One, you must learn, the teacher, and that's appropriate because we have a lot of stories this hour that deal with our educational system, what's going on with our kids. You are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the show where we hit all the trending topics and sizzling headlines in entertainment, sports, culture, and lifestyle. Welcome to Hour 2 with me, Jill Munroe. I hope you're doing okay. So in this hour, I gave you a bit of a rundown. We're going to talk about Drake. You know, Drake's on tour, and Drake is being a menace. That's what he does. It's how he gets over. But Drake is always, always, always entertaining. Last week, Travis Scott dropped a new album, Utopia, which Drake is featured on, a single called Meltdown. He also has Beyonce on that album, too. But we're going to get into that and what Drake is doing and who he's dissing with that. We also, as I mentioned, are going to get into what's going on at LeBron James's charter school in Akron, Ohio, the I Promise Foundation. The kids there, the 8th graders, are not reaching the levels that they should be as far as math is concerned. And some people have some questions. So we're going to get into that, where we think that stems from and what's going on with that. We're also going to talk a little bit about what is happening in Houston with some of their schools and school districts and what changes they are making. And we're going to talk about Florida. Florida has a little situation going on that you should definitely be aware of. Public health crisis. Yeah, things are happening. So we're going to talk about all of that. So let's get into this Drake situation. As I mentioned, Drake, he's currently on tour with 21 Savage. And, you know, he's been doing various things, getting bras thrown at him at every show, learning about what the different bra sizes stand for and so forth, coming out with his hologram. You know, he brought his mom out on stage, shouting out Little Kim, all of these things. But recently, you know, Drake has been getting his little shots off. He has a new album that's coming out in a couple weeks. I think it's called To All My Dogs, something like that, For All My Dogs, something along those lines, plus the poetry book. We talked about that a few weeks back. So, again, this could all be build up. This could all be a marketing strategy. But Drake is dissing Pharrell. So where's this coming from? Well, obviously we know Pharrell and Star Trek Entertainment was responsible for the clips. We know that a few years back, Pharrell and Pusha T had extreme amounts of beef. Pusha T revealed some things about Drake's son and the mother of his child. You know, they dissed each other back and forth. But if you thought that Drake was over it, not the petty Scorpio. No. Drake still has smoke for, I guess, Pusha and his affiliates. Yeah. So this time on Meltdown, Drake alludes to the fact that he bought from Jupiter, that's the name of Pharrell's luxury auction house, where he sold a bunch of his items and paraphernalia, including some of his, medallions and chains. Apparently, Drake purchased them. And in the song Meltdown, he says, I melt down the chains that I bought from your boss. Give a F about all that heritage stuff. It's obviously not stuff, but, And some more little innuendos, right? Like, how petty? How are you going to spend thousands of dollars to melt some stuff down just so you can get it off in a line? In the video for Jumbotron S Poppin', Drake could be seen wearing some of Pharrell's chains. I also mentioned that he bought Tupac's ring that Pac had designed for himself with the crown and the rubies and the diamonds. He was wearing it when he was shot in Vegas. It had Dada and Pac on the inside, 96, for his then fiance, Kadada. So we have all of that going on with Drake. He's always grabbing bits and pieces of hip-hop historia and other things like that. So do you think that was a good idea for him to grab Pharrell's stuff just to melt it down and then drop it in a song? He also dissed Pharrell and Pharrell's role as creative director at Louis Vuitton. He said that, well, a little back history, which you may or may not know. The position was previously held by Virgil Abloh. I might be jacking up Virgil's last name. I know it, but sometimes that happens. Anyway, Virgil passed away tragically. And, Virgil he was affiliated with Kanye. He took Louis Vuitton to another level, doing some different things. And now Pharrell stepped in those shoes. And so Drake has a problem with that as well. He said that since V not around, the members done hung up the Louis. They not even wearing that stuff. So he's on an all-out assault. He also made reference to being sued by Vogue in the song over the parody cover that he and 21 Savage released when they were promoting their Her Lost album last summer. The lawsuit was eventually settled, but Drake rapped, "You lucky that Vogue was suing, cause I would have been with the Wassas in Paris and stuff." So that is a reference to Pharrell launching his Louis Vuitton show. I believe it was in June it took place, and Pusha T was on hand and he performed during the runway segment. So the beef obviously dates back to 2018, and it was about the ghostwriting bars and, the freestyle and all of the pictures and all of that. So the question is Drake, once again, like he always does, being entirely too petty, or is this just showmanship and it's just hip hop and really we need to get over it? I want you to think about that. Maybe you want to call me and talk about it. 800-920-1580. When we come forward, we will get into what is going on at LeBron James's I Promise School in Akron, Ohio. We'll talk about what the Houston School District is doing to some of their libraries. And we'll get into what Lala and Carmelo Anthony's son, Kiyan, has on the way. All that and more, you're checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Ew. Gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried New Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, it's Jill Munroe. You are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Before I get into the story regarding LeBron and his I Promise school, just want to send prayers out to Kiyan. I always mess up Miss Van Sant's first name. Say it for me, Andy, because I'm going to mess it up just because.
Go ahead and try it. Kiyan.
Kiyanla.
There you go. You got it.
So I know this, but I still know that I'm going to jack it up. So I just accept it and prep you for it in advance. But we're sending prayers out to her and her family. She announced the passing of her youngest daughter, who was 49 years old. She passed away Sunday night. They did not reveal the circumstances surrounding her death, but we just want to send prayers to her. The death of Nisa comes 20 years after her daughter Jamia died at the age of 32 from colon cancer on Christmas Day in 2003. So just want to send a special bit of love and support out to Miss Van Sant. She does have a son, Damon. He's 53, so hold tight to your family members. You don't know the day or the hour, and life is precious as we see. So we've lost a number of our fellow humans today. So we just want to be sensitive to that and send those people love that are grieving and shout out. So on to LeBron James. So as you know, LeBron James started a school in his hometown of Akron, Ohio. And, you know, the intent is obviously one that is notable. It was to give lower income students, especially those that were of black and brown persuasion, as well as disabled students, an opportunity to win. So the school had breakfast programs, it has, transportation, lots of counseling services to help this district step up so that the students are up to par. However, something's gone awry as of lately. So this fall, the class of 8th graders at the I Promise School, they do not have a single student that has passed the state's math test since this same group was in 3rd grade. So that's about 5 years. Not one in 3 years. 3 to 5 years, yeah. It's 5 years from the 3rd grade, but maybe 3 years since the last time they were tested. At any rate, the district's director of school improvement has said that it's discouraging. It's 5 years into the program. It operates in partnership with the LeBron James Foundation, but they also receive funding from the state. So people are starting to ask questions. Now, it's also not unprecedented that a school of this nature, which takes on the aspect of the community that is struggling the most, is still going to have problems. It takes a lot to turn those issues around. But they feel that 2 of the school's biggest subgroups, one of those being black students, the other being students with disabilities, are now testing in the bottom 5% of the state. And so what happens under those circumstances is that it has landed the school on the Ohio Department of Education's list of those requiring targeted intervention. So what that basically means is that the state will come over and take on some aspect of the school as a trustee or getting involved with the school structure, the class structure, the educational setups, and try and figure out what's happening. The feeling was from board president Derek Hall, who noted that this was the first such overview that he had seen on the school in 4 years that he has been serving on the board. And so he said, although he was disappointed with the data, he wanted to be noted that even with the COVID-19 and the year of remote learning and other factors that have given, the students step back after step back, he still believes that there have been a plethora of resources given to the school and they should see better progress. He said, for me as a board member, I just think about all the resources that we're providing. And I'm just disappointed that I don't think it doesn't appear like we're seeing the kind of change that we would expect to receive. So the school receives the same local, state, and federal funding from any public school. But on top of that, the foundation is given up to $1.4 million each year for additional tutors and to have more teachers in the lower grades to increase class size. So I guess the question is, when you are dealing with a group that is already starting out behind, how much of an impact can you make in 5 short years? Even with all the programs that they're doing, what is the expectation for turnaround? I guess that would be a question for an educator, because in theory, you would want to see at least 5, right? We don't know how large the class is, but you would want to see some change happening. And so I also think, though, that it's a shame that LeBron is going to be taking a lot of heat for this, and it largely has nothing to do with him. He wanted to do something for his community, for his hometown. He gave back. He put in some of his finances, yes, not all. He doesn't completely fund it, as we went over that, but still his heart was in the right place. And so you just have to wonder too, we've seen with various charter schools, there's been questions as to the educational viability of the programs, whether or not they're really good for the students as a whole because of the way that they're separated out. So we'll have to see what develops. But obviously, 8th grade is crucial. It's the year before you start high school. And we know all bets are off pretty much after that. Your study habits, to a degree, kind of the trajectory that you were on as far as a student is sort of set by then. So hopefully they'll be able to figure out why these students aren't able to pass at the bare minimum and what they can do to make changes to enhance the program. Because the heart is in the right place, obviously, and there seems to be so many other areas where it's working. You just have to wonder. So shout out to LeBron still and always, and hopefully they will get that together. Now, on to another troubled school district. The Houston School District is deciding what to do with their libraries. And so this is according to The Guardian. They have decided that there's no longer a need for libraries in school, which I guess if you're listening to all the conversations surrounding CRT and all of those other things would probably make sense for states that are really trying to lock down and hamper in the educational system, right? So what they have decided that they're going to do with the libraries, they're going to turn them into disciplinary centers. So basically, the largest school district in Texas announced that it will be eliminating all libraries and replacing them with discipline centers for the new school year. I think that is horrible. I think that is possibly the most tragic thing that I have ever heard of. Earlier this summer, the Houston School District announced that the librarian and media specialist positions in 28 schools will be eliminated as part of the superintendent, his name is Mike Miles, new education system initiative. Teachers at these schools will soon have the option to send misbehaving students to these discipline centers or team centers, designated areas where they will continue to learn remotely. So basically, send all the bad kids to a room and let them do what they do in there. The mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner, allegedly condemned the district moves and said the solution to the problem of behavioral conduct was not to revoke access to books, especially in these underserved communities. He said, "Are there students who need additional support? Yes, and I'm 100% supportive of that. But that's not an either or. You don't close libraries, remove the librarians, and simply have books on the shelves. What about all the other students? What are you saying to them?" So I feel like this is part of a larger system, obviously, that's going on within the GOP. They are discrediting experts, scientists, teachers, anybody that comes with facts and is armed to defend and explain those facts, right? It's an all-out assault on the educational system. And why will it make sense if you look at things like those who believe in conspiracy theories, those who aren't diving into topics on more than just a superficial or surface level? Those are the type of people that you can say one thing to generally, and they aren't going to do any further research. So if you start taking them out at the educational level, they won't know how to fact check. They won't know how to utilize empirical thinking, how to ask those questions. Terry in the chat says, what is a discipline center? A discipline center is basically, it's like, when you would get sent to detention after school. It's essentially what it is. You're acting up in class. The teacher feels you're unruly. They're going to send you to the library. Although you won't be sent there to go do a book report or read a book. In theory, you'll be sent there to work on whatever assignment you were working on in your class. You'll just be working on it independently. So there'll just be a bunch of bad kids in a room, and God help whatever the teacher or security officer that is assigned to dole out this situation, because they've let go of all the librarians and the new media people. So no education will be happening there. So prayers to the Houston School District. I think that it is, again, incredibly short-sighted, but look what the Republicans are doing. That's what they keep doing. Not that this is necessarily a Republican move. It just smells like one. It just feels like one. So, moving from Houston on down to Florida. Florida is kind of the armpit of America, the toilet bowl of America at this point. No shade, no tea to you Florida people. We love you. It's not necessarily your fault, although it is, because you had a choice. And when you had a choice, that's the choice you made. But anyway, in some random news, there is a disease that is floating around Florida, and its numbers are rising. In fact, Florida has the largest evidence of this in the country. So basically, the Pensacola News Journal is saying that there is the possibility that an endemic is taking place in the southeastern U.S., with Florida being like, what do they call it? Ground zero of what's happening. Leprosy. Yes, that leprosy that you heard about in the Bible, that is of biblical proportions. Leprosy is making a comeback. In a recent published research letter about emerging infectious diseases, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention said that Florida is witnessing an increase in leprosy cases, and that lacking traditional risk factors, they are recommending that not traveling to Florida be considered while they are figuring out what is going on with this. So leprosy is scientifically known as Hansen's disease. It's a chronic infectious disease that primarily affects skin and the peripheral nervous system. The number of reported leprosy cases across the country has doubled over the past decade, according to the CDC. And there were 159 new cases reported in the United States in 2020. 70% of those new cases were reported in Florida. The other states where it's popping up, right here in California, Louisiana, Hawaii, New York, and Texas. So they don't really know what's going on with that. The reason why Florida stands out in these reports, 2 reasons. Central Florida alone has accounted for nearly 20% of the total number of reported cases nationally, and several new case patients in Florida demonstrated no clear evidence of exposure or the traditional known risk factors. So Hansen's disease is not something that's ever been common in the U.S. Most cases previously involved people that have immigrated to the U.S. from areas where leprosy is more common, but the new report shows that about 34% of the reported cases between 2015 and 2020 were locally acquired. So basically what that means is there's a growing body of evidence that something is happening. We'll get more into that when we come forward. Coming up is news and sports. You are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It doesn't exist, no way, no how. It seems to me that in a school this ebony, African history should be pumped up steadily, but it's not. And this has got to stop. See spot, run, get spot. Insulting to a black mentality, a black way of life, or a jet black family. So I include with one concern that you must learn. Just like I told you. 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 You must learn. I believe that if you're teaching history, deal with straight up.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Clinical trials for long COVID treatments are starting soon, with the National Institutes of Health currently enrolling patients. They expect additional trials to test at least 7 more treatments in the next few months. These are the first into a possible treatment for long COVID after Congress provided over $1 billion in funding in December 2020 for the NIH's Recover initiative to research the long-term consequences of COVID. And police are investigating black rapper Cardi B for battery after she threw a microphone at an audience member who threw a drink on her. That's according to a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department statement to the New York Post. And the extreme heat wave continues. In the Southwest, Phoenix has now topped 110 degrees for 31 days straight. And that's the latest. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
2 years ago, on Juneteenth 2021, KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun.
As we enter our 3rd year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issues Survey finds that for the 2nd consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks.
Meet Joe A, Joe B, and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect. Support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege. Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically Black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the Dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Protho-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid. And we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, with an auto warranty about to expire, or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-381-8528 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-381-8528. That's 800-381-8528. What do you have to lose? Call 800-381-8528. Again, 800-381-8528.
Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Probable cause,
break no laws. They say probable cause. Probable cause. Yeah. Probable cause. You don't have to break no laws. They say probable cause. Now who's this? In the
Brand Nubian Andy?
About 20 to 5. Got a truck full of chicks.
Told you.
The disco, me and my
I'm
man
ill. You are listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. VIPs, let me share with you once again. My music knowledge is pretty tight. Pretty tight. You're going to have to work real hard to get me. Some nights. Some nights Andy was about to come in and be a hater and act like I haven't been killing this. He only threw me off like once or twice, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You know, I got that Brand Nubian. I think they dropped in 91. I worked on Grand Poobah, his solo release. I think it was called Real to Real. What goes around comes back around again. Yeah. That's how the song went. Anyway, so I always like to drop in my little tidbits from the music industry and things as such. The chat is still going. Pretty Brown Mimi said of Drake, isn't Drake 35? Why does he act so immature? I think that it is really a marketing tactic for Drake when it comes to that. I think that, like I mentioned, he has an album release that's coming up. He is still on tour. He has a couple of weeks left on this tour. We don't know if all those shows are sold out. There's a lot of merch that has to be sold at those tours as well. I think he just does stuff that keeps him in the conscience. He's also, since there's been the debate about whether or not Drake is interviewing with the right hip hop media outlets, Drake has taken to, there was the interview with he and the young lady named Bobby. She's a young white girl and she's very deadpan, and they did the interview in the bed. And Elliot Wilson, who I believe Elliot was the editor for XXL. He currently has a show on Apple Music, and he's been around for a very long time, and he questioned why Drake isn't going to some legacy media or, some of the hip-hop establishment. And, we talked about Drake's response, which was basically, you can't shade people and then expect them to want to come up to your stuff. Maybe. But it is interesting who they're choosing to talk to and interview with. Drake also did a little run-in, cute little video at Starlet's. Starlet's is, a strip club as well as a bar that is pretty popular in the New York area. People frequent it. The Startenders, those are the bartenders, are actually reached a point at one time where they were more popular than the actual strippers in there. If you know who Bernice Burgos is, we talked about her recently. She is Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics' girlfriend. She also used to date Drake. And yes, that's right. Look at Andy. We talked about that age gap thing earlier with Erykah Badu and John Boyega. Bernice is a 44-year-old grandmother. Jaylen is not yet 30, but they popping and doing their thing, making it hot, making it do what it do.
I think that's what's also changing the game as well, too. You know what I'm saying? The age gap, like, you got 40-year-olds looking like 20-year-olds. You got 50-year-olds looking like 30-year-olds. So
True.
Visually, I think it's changing things.
So it's visually. So it's not your average, what you would consider, your mom or your aunties 40 and 50 at this point. It looks a little different. It has a little different shine to it. A new look for a new era. Is that what's going on? Listen, make it happen. Make it happen. Pretty Brown Mimi also says, say it, Jill, black media outlets. I do not know as of recently who Drake has interviewed with. So I do not want to say with 100% certainty that he has sidestepped black media outlets, because I don't know that. But it certainly feels that way. It could simply be a case because, like the young guy that I mentioned he did the video with at Starlet's, he was, I think, Latino. So he's giving young ones a chance, which, these are up and coming journalists or influencers, however you want to look at them, with platforms that are new and fresh, reaching a different demographic. Could be, we know most people want to go younger. They want to reach the kids. They want to tap into what the younger generation is doing. Doesn't mean that they don't care about the elders and the older ones, but they feel like the kids are more likely to do different things with their discretionary income, which I think is sort of changing. I think that much like we talked about the look of some 40 and 50-year-olds is changing, the spending habits, the activities, things that are considered appropriate for middle age is sort of changing as well. But I can't be mad at Drake for trying to reach the kids, but I do have some questions. I'll just say that. I do have some questions about who he's choosing to talk to and who he's choosing to check in with. Mimi, you missed the topic. You're asking, wait, is Erykah Badu dating John Boyega? They are not dating, but she said he was her celebrity crush. You're going to have to rewind the first hour and get into that. And basically, John was at the show. And so we don't know what's going to happen.
Erykah Badu put her bid in. That's what she did.
Erykah Badu definitely put her bid in. She let it be known that they could, hang out,
roll up,
chill. Here's the thing. And be clear, because she was like, I'm working right now. I can't finish this conversation. I am actually at work. But you could go to my trailer and roll one for me. So, you be the little man waiting at home. I don't know.
Let me just say this. She was speaking a lot of guys' language just by saying that alone. Oh, you be rolling this.
That's it.
I'm telling you. Erykah Badu, hey, you right. She got that magic. She know. I think, you know what? Maybe way back when, she used to be a dude sometime. I don't know, because her mental
is crazy.
She be touching the right triggers for us, man.
She said she was born underwater with $3.06. Yeah, you might laugh, but you did not do your math. Okay, so, Erykah has been pulling tips and tricks and lotions and potions out from her bag from a long, long time. And they always seem to be mesmerized. I mean, look, get it in, Miss Badu, get it in. We can learn from you, I guess, depending upon how you feel about the scenario and the situation. But I'm not mad at it. I think Erykah should do her thing. Anyway, we're going back to Florida and this leprosy thing. Something you should know is that despite how crazy it sounds, leprosy is really not something that is easy to spread. About 95% of people have natural protective immunity from it. So let's start with that. It's also pretty easy to treat if it's addressed early, but if you go too long without treatment, it can result in permanent nerve damage. So it's caused by a bacteria, which is a slow growing type. It can often take years for symptoms and signs to first develop following your first exposure. So once the first signs of infection come to light, you usually will begin to see the symptoms anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, and it will progress fairly quickly. But early signs of leprosy include, in case you're in the Florida area or California or Texas, because they're all on there and increasing, pale or slightly red skin, a body that is often associated with loss of sensation, dry, stiff, and sometimes painful skin, bumps, lumps, nasal congestion. But it's curable with an antibiotic. So think about that. Just protect your health, be safe out there, and make sure you're paying attention to your environment, because we seem to be having these throwback diseases coming back. When we come forward, we will have more stories. We'll talk about Kiyan Anthony and what he has on deck for his power move. We're going to get into a little bit of Spence versus Crawford, and we're going to talk about the next MCU. All that and more. You're checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
More when we come forward.
The Youth Forward organization calls for a cannabis candy ban for products they say target children. I'm Aisha Cairo with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. Mid-July, a coalition of groups committed to raising awareness about cannabis products that look like candy called on Governor Newsom to enact a cannabis candy ban. Youth Forward, an organization working to shape cannabis policy, is leading the charge with a petition to direct tax revenues from marijuana into youth and community reinvestment programs. The Cannabis Candy Child Safety Act, Assembly Bill 1207, passed the Assembly with a 61-0 vote in May. The bill aims to prevent children from consuming cannabis products by regulating packaging and advertising. It is currently under review in the Senate Appropriations Committee. KBLA listeners, what are your thoughts on this one? Let us know on our social platforms on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more.
I'm Dominique DePrima. We can all fall into the trap of mindlessly spending sometimes. I know I do it. But one tip for staying on track is when you have an impromptu purchase that comes up, try making a habit of taking a quick look at your bank account balance before you buy it. It's not just about seeing how much you have in your checking account. Just looking at your account might put the urge to make that impulse purchase into perspective and help you make better choices that'll benefit you for the long term. Whatever your financial goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Initiatives can help support you in reaching them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Attention taxpayers, ready for some bad news? With $80 billion in new funding from Congress, the IRS has launched their most aggressive hiring campaign ever to ramp up enforcement. If you're ignoring your taxes, don't delay another minute because your paycheck, your bank account, even your home or business could already be at risk. Now, here's the good news. Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm, can get to work immediately helping to protect you from the IRS. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their tax attorneys and licensed professionals are experts at resolving tax problems. Let them help determine if you qualify for the Fresh Start Initiative or other powerful IRS tax assistance programs. Take control. Call Optima Tax Relief now for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
Hey, it's Jill Munroe. Thank you for locking in, VIPs. You are listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So, I told you we were going to get into a little bit about what is going on with Carmelo and Lala Anthony's son, Kiyan. You know, Kiyan Anthony, first over the weekend, we saw him get shouted out by Drake at the concert. So, you know, that was probably big for the kid. Even though his parents are obviously celebrities, it's still exciting when other celebrities shout you out and you're in the moment. So, shout out to Kiyan for that. But even bigger news, we know that Kiyan's a hooper, right? Taken after dad. So he has released the first episode of his docuseries on Overtime. And the show is called The Evolution. And of course, there's a 7 in there because, you know, Carmelo was 7. Kiyan rocked 7. It's a YouTube series. It's a docuseries. And it basically is following Kiyan around. It features highlights of him in game and some AAU practice footage and some other stuff. But really, Kiyan says the reason why he wanted to drop this docuseries and sort of show what he goes through as a young player, trying to take his dreams higher, trying to set himself up for NIL and all of these things, is because he wants to show that he's much more than just an NBA player's son. So here's the thing, though. In the first episode, it's mainly about him and Melo working the kids out and stuff like that. But it is a good insight into what it takes to be a top high school player, get on the AAU circuit and the type of dedication you have to sports at this time period, even with a superstar dad and a mother that is in the industry as well, acting and doing things. So you get a better sense of Kiyan. You get to see another side to the father-son relationship between the two. He goes to Long Island Lutheran. So he's a shooting guard there. Check it out. It's available on YouTube and the Overtime Elite channel if you want to see young Kiyan and what the future holds, what it might entail. Now, I mentioned that there is another MC universe, MCU, on the horizon. And it's not Marvel, but it does have something to do with things that you are familiar with. So coming off of the success of Mattel's Barbie, along with Warner Brothers, right? Mattel's like, what other properties can we take and expand for viewers to lock in? So I hope you're ready. Take a deep breath. Run through all the childhood memories and games and cycles and things that you would want to see come to the screen. May not be a list of that many, but Mattel has a long list for you. Let me run down some of the projects that Mattel is going to be developing with hopes to bring them to your big screen or your small screen and take your dollars away and have another Barbieheimer frenzy. You know, we're throwing Oppenheimer in there because it was the same weekend, but realistically, it wasn't the main thing of that main thing. But anyway, so they're looking at American Girl, Barney, Polly Pocket, Hot Wheels, Uno, Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I feel like they already tried that. Didn't they try that movie, like something with the robots and then boxing, and it had the guy that plays Wolverine? Anyway, I'm going to look that up on the break. You know I am, just to see if I'm wrong. I think I'm right, though. So what else is on there? Magic 8 Ball, which I really, really used to love. And that one, they can make that kind of like a thriller, I suspect. But the Mattel Cinematic Universe is coming. And what I want to know is, are you here for it? Are you ready for it? Are there any more properties you are interested in checking out? Pretty Brown Mimi in the chat, she says He-Man and She-Ra. I think that there are already talks about those being in development. I think that you are right and that they are on their way. I do think that there is something to be said, though, about original content. And I know that the feeling is that, oh, well, everybody wants a slice of their nostalgia. And obviously what happened with Barbie isn't going to dissuade them from thinking that. But we also have to consider Barbie was the main girl for a very, very long time. And they spent a lot of money to make that happen. And I guess the idea is that Mattel is probably willing to do that again with these other properties. But is there the same type of attachment to these properties as there was with something like Barbie? And will they be able to find that magic combination of funny and the right cast and the right story that makes it last? I mean, of course, that's the goal with every film and TV project, but I think especially so if you're trying to raid the coffers and bring back these nostalgic pieces, then it has to make not just a little sense, it has to make a lot of sense, because we are far beyond the time when you can just give us a little bit of throwback and we're locked in and are going to spend the dollars for it. But we'll have to see. So another good question that you can answer, hit me up on social media, drop it in the chat, or call. Are you interested in seeing more toy properties from your childhood being turned into TV and films? So we'll get into that again later on. So let me just get you prepped and ready for the third hour of the show, because can you believe it? We still have more to talk about. Now, I know we talked about Cardi B earlier and her mic chucking and how Cardi might want to consider hitting the AAA league or something like that. That girl has an arm. Baseball might be in her future, or maybe she can get one of the kids lined up for that. But Her husband, Offset, released an album last Friday. There also was a single that featured the both of them called Jealousy. And during an interview on Power 105 in New York, Offset had some comments about his cheating on Cardi and also how he holds it down for her. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the Spence versus Crawford fight. And we're going to get into your thoughts, my thoughts, our thoughts on if we think a rematch is necessary and if it's a good idea for Spence moving forward. We're going to discuss a member of the Clippers that was arrested on Sunday morning. We'll talk about that. And we have time. If we have time, we're going to talk a little bit about J. Cole and his favorite rappers or who inspired him. And we're also going to get into a new movement that is making its way around TikTok. And it involves a man who states that this thing for men is just like women being emotionally hurt by a man. And he says that women don't even realize it. They do it. They do it often. And they have no thoughts or feelings in relation to it. I really, really, really want to hear your thoughts on that topic. So we will have all of that and more coming up. Of course, we're in the chat on YouTube, so make sure you're hitting us up there. The phone lines, in case you want to call in and you have a comment on something, 800-920-1580. And we're at all social media, KBLA 1580. I'm at Stiletto Jill. In the chat, Pretty Brown Mimi says, I wouldn't mind seeing Great Space Coaster on the big screen. I feel like, no, I'm getting that mixed up with Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. I feel like they were trying to do a live-action Space Ghost movie. The Great Space Coaster, I wonder what that would be like. I mean, I just feel like there's so many original ideas. I understand the attraction to nostalgia, easy grab, easy explanation, but some of this stuff just feels like a reach. It just feels tired. Anyway, all that and more when we come forward. You are checking out KBLA Talk 1580, RSVP with Jill Munroe. RSVPs, get ready for After Hours. It's coming up next.
See my New York tags and he asked me my destination. I said vacation, handed him my registration. Papers were straight, so I didn't wet the situation. Got my back, and that was that, but that wasn't that, cause in fact, I got stopped 2 more times. Probable cause, you don't have to break no laws, they say probable cause. Probable cause, you don't have to break no laws, they say probable cause. Probable cause,